Pain changes people. Think about that carefully. It changes the way they think, the way they trust, the way they see life. And sometimes, it changes the way they relate to God. Many people begin their faith journey believing that life will make sense if they trust enough, pray enough, believe enough. But eventually, most people encounter a season that challenges everything they assumed. A prayer that goes unanswered. A loss they never expected. A betrayal they never saw coming. A season so painful that easy answers no longer feel satisfying. And maybe that is where faith begins to change. Because pain forces deeper questions. Questions people rarely ask during comfortable seasons. Where is God in suffering? Why does silence feel so heavy? Why do faithful people still experience heartbreak? Why does healing sometimes take so long? Think about the people in Scripture. Many of them encountered God most deeply during painful seasons. Not because pain itself is good, but because pain removes illusions. It strips away shallow certainty. It exposes what people truly believe. Think about Job. His story challenges many assumptions about faith. He lost stability, security, comfort. And suddenly, his relationship with God became more honest than ever before. Think about that carefully. Job asked difficult questions. He wrestled emotionally. He expressed confusion, grief, frustration. And yet Scripture still presents him as faithful. That matters. Because many people believe faith means never struggling emotionally, never questioning, never feeling overwhelmed. But biblical faith was often deeply honest. David cried out in pain. Jeremiah wrestled with discouragement. Many faithful people experienced emotional exhaustion. And maybe that surprises people because modern culture often presents faith as constant certainty. But Scripture presents something more human, more real, more honest. Now think carefully about this. Pain changes prayer. Before suffering, many prayers feel structured, predictable, routine. But pain often removes polished language. Suddenly prayer becomes raw, desperate, authentic. People stop trying to sound impressive. They simply speak honestly. And perhaps that is one reason pain changes relationships with God. Because suffering removes performance. Think about a child in distress. They do not carefully organize their words. They simply cry out honestly. And maybe painful seasons teach people to approach God with that same honesty. Not pretending. Not performing. Just real. Now consider another difficult truth. Pain can also create distance. Some people withdraw spiritually after suffering. They become disappointed, confused, angry. And perhaps someone listening understands that feeling. Maybe life unfolded differently than you expected. Maybe a prayer remained unanswered. Maybe you trusted God and still experienced heartbreak. Those experiences can create emotional tension people rarely talk about openly. Because pain does not always strengthen faith immediately. Sometimes it shakes faith first. Think about that carefully. Even strong believers experience moments of struggle. Moments of uncertainty. Moments where heaven feels quiet. And maybe one of the greatest mistakes people make is assuming those moments disqualify them spiritually. They do not. Some of the deepest faith develops after wrestling, after questioning, after surviving painful seasons. Now think about Jesus in the garden before the crucifixion. Even he expressed anguish, sorrow, distress. Think about that carefully. The Son of God still experienced emotional pain. That changes how people view suffering entirely. Because suffering is not automatically proof of spiritual failure. Pain is part of the human experience. And Scripture never pretends otherwise. Now let's talk about something many people discover after painful seasons. Their relationship with God often becomes deeper afterward. Not simpler. Deeper. There is a difference. Before pain, faith may remain theoretical. But suffering forces faith into reality. People stop relying on cliches. They stop depending on shallow optimism. Instead, they begin searching for something solid enough to survive difficult seasons. And maybe that is why some people emerge from painful seasons with stronger faith. Not because the pain was enjoyable, but because it forced them to discover whether their faith could survive hardship. Now think carefully about trust. Trust changes after pain. Some people become more guarded, more fearful, more hesitant. Yet others slowly discover something unexpected. God remained present even during seasons they thought they would never survive. Think about that carefully. Many people only recognize God's faithfulness clearly in hindsight. While walking through suffering, everything feels confusing. But later, they realize they were sustained in ways they did not fully understand at the time. Strength appeared when they thought they had none left. Hope appeared when everything felt dark. And somehow they continued moving forward. Not perfectly, but faithfully. Now consider this. Pain often shifts people's priorities. Things that once seemed important lose significance. Status, approval, material success. Many people discover that suffering clarifies what truly matters. Relationships, purpose, faith, peace, and perhaps painful seasons strip away distractions that once consumed attention unnecessarily. Now maybe someone listening feels spiritually different after what they experienced. Maybe pain changed your relationship with God. Maybe your faith feels more complicated now. More emotional. More honest. If so, remember this. A changing faith is not automatically a dying faith. Sometimes faith matures through struggle. Sometimes depth develops through suffering. Sometimes people encounter God most honestly after life breaks their illusions. And maybe God is not afraid of your questions, your grief, your confusion, or your honesty. Because Scripture repeatedly shows God meeting people in painful places. Not abandoning them there. Meeting them there? So the real question is not, why did pain change my relationship with God? Maybe the real question is, how is this pain reshaping the way I understand faith, trust, and dependence? Think about that carefully. Because painful seasons may change your relationship with God forever. But sometimes that change becomes the beginning of a deeper, more honest faith than you ever had before. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to Grace Unseen for more hope-filled biblical truths, deeper meanings, and life-changing wisdom from Scripture. And before you go, leave a comment below. How has pain changed your faith journey? Your story may encourage someone else who is struggling through a difficult season right now.